Hi. Guys, I feel like I've been a little bit too mentally stable lately. Let's just ruin all of the progress that I've made. Try not to cry while watching these 3 heartbreaking stories. It's almost like I hate myself. Let's go. My lights aren't on. Better.
My name is Jessica. Have you ever found yourself stuck between your mother and her lover?
Actually, I have. Tracy, I don't know if she's gonna like me for talking about this, but I remember she had a boyfriend for a little while when I was like 10 to 12. He didn't pass the vibe check in my opinion. There was nothing wrong with him, I don't think. I don't know. I just didn't like him, and so I would yell at him every single day and about how much I didn't want him to be there. He tried so hard to get me to like him. He even bought me a mini fridge and I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't let him in. I think the breaking point was when I yelled at him on Christmas Day and then he had to go.
That was exactly the situation I found myself in, and I watched while everything unfolded, waiting for my life to be ruined beyond repair by my own mother. When my mom got married to my dad, she was only 18. He met her in a coffee shop that she used to work at. He was the owner of a big company back then.
Why is she speaking like she has some kind of throat infection? Like, they got married when they were 18. She was the owner of a really big company back then.
He was 33 years older than she was when he decided to marry her. She agreed to marry him at that time, but it wasn't because she was in love with him. She agreed because she loved his money. He was her golden ticket to a lavish lifestyle.
This is who everyone makes me out to be in the comments. What's up with that piece of hair? Stop that immediately. You know what? The gold digger comments have chilled out lately since I actually got a nice boyfriend, but it was rough for like a year and a half. It sucked.
After they got married, they had me and my twin brother James. Dad loved us so much.
Why do they all have blue hair? By the way, did you know the subscribe button now turns blue when you click it? Go, try it, do it. I'm not lying. You did it and it didn't work. I'm sorry I pranked you, but if you unsubscribe, you'll get 3 years of bad luck. I don't make the rules.
His love wasn't enough to make him stay. He died last summer and left us a lot of money and a lot of property. However,
well, that makes it fine
just
then.
Minors. So Mom was our legal guardian, and that's where all the trouble began. It wasn't easy for me and James to get over our dad's death, unlike our mom, who seemed to go back to normal a month after it happened. She started going out with some guy named Mike.
Well, yeah, she didn't like him to start with, so I'm kind of wondering how the kids know all of that, though. Like, how do they know about her true intentions? I mean, the dad's dead, he can hardly tell them. You know, I say very heavy things with a very nonchalant tone, and I need to stop with that.
Who was excessively concerned about the way he looked. There's no doubt that my mom was a very attractive woman herself, but I knew for sure that Mike wasn't attracted to her, but rather to something else. At first, their dates were normal.
Oh, how the turns have tabled.
Restaurants and fancy bars, but little by little, I began to notice that there was something that didn't seem right.
The fact that his hair is orange and their hair's all blue is really throwing me off. I feel like you need to find a regular, another blue-headed person to be part of the family. Kind of looks like Marge Simpson let her hair down.
Invited him to have dinner with us so that he could meet me and James. It was the first time for him to visit our house. From the moment he set foot in our house, his eyes wandered around, taking every single thing in, and he seemed in awe at everything he saw. While we were having dinner, he looked at me and James and said, "You must be some very lucky kids to live in such a lavish house and to have all this money."
Who says stuff like that, really? You're very lucky kids to have all of this money. You're so lucky your father died and you got the inheritance, but you're so lucky.
He pretty much only spoke about money, and there wasn't even a spark between him and my mom. I mean, he barely even looked at her in the eyes. After that date, Mom started to look frustrated every time she spoke to Mike on the phone. I used to hear him scream at her on the phone, even when I was all the way up in my room.
Well, then break up with him then.
Every argument they had, he always threatened to leave her. Mom was very committed to him and didn't want to lose him.
Why? They didn't even like each other.
After my dad's death, she thought that there weren't many men who would want to be with her. So she wanted Mike to stay with her no matter the cost. And that was exactly what happened. Mike stayed, but it definitely cost us a lot. Mom began to buy him some really expensive gifts. She gave him everything that he wanted to make sure he stayed with her. They weren't normal gifts. They were insanely expensive gifts.
I would also start demanding some of it as a child. Ew. Imagine your mother getting a boyfriend and spending all of your dead father's inheritance money on him. I would simply run away.
Bought him a Bentley Bentayga and a luxury house next to ours.
Buy
She bought
me
him
one.
Rolexes and clothes by Versace, Prada, and
Oh
Gucci.
my god.
And it didn't
How
stop
rich was
there.
the dad?
She even sent him alone on a trip to the Hawaiian island.
Are you sure this guy didn't kill the father?
When he told her that he needed some time away to rest and recuperate, I didn't know if Mom was aware
And
of the
get
fact,
bitches.
but he was clearly just using her. Not only was he using her, but he was also spending our dad's money, which was meant to be for me and James. It's true that my father was rich, but he wasn't Mark Zuckerberg rich. And the way things were headed, it seemed there would come a day when all our money would be in the hands of Mike. And when that time came, he would break up with our mom, and there wouldn't be anything left for me and James. I had to do something. I wasn't going to let Mom act like that forever.
Mom sounds like a little not gonna lie.
Before I got the chance to take any action, it appeared that God had saved us all. On that vacation that Mike wanted to spend
Did he
alone
die?
in Hawaii, Mom decided to surprise him. So she traveled to Hawaii 2 days
Oh,
later,
no.
and you won't believe what she discovered.
I'll
Well,
believe
you might
it.
be able to guess. She found out that Mike wasn't taking some time to rest as he said he would be. It turned out that he'd traveled to Hawaii to enjoy a nice vacation.
Oh my god, when he was bobbing up and down, I thought it was because he was like, you know what I mean? This is for kids, Kiera.
She caught him cheating, and she came back to us brokenhearted. It was pretty stupid of my mom to fall for someone like Mike, but at least now I can say that she learned a valuable lesson. We definitely lost a fair amount of our dad's fortune that he'd left us, but there was still enough left for me and James to live a good life and to be able to secure our future, and Mom's too. What did you think of my story? Please share your comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.
She said it, you have to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Okay, I'm gonna try not to cry at this next. My parents are the reason why my real parents aren't alive, and they kept it a secret.
That was a mouthful.
You know, I don't think I'm very good at trying not to cry challenges because I kind of have the emotional range of a teaspoon. No, seriously, someone said that to me yesterday.
I am Patty, and a few months ago,
Hello, Patty.
I discovered the horrifying truth about my biological parents that my adoptive parents had kept hidden from me for all these years. That was the biggest shock of my life. Ever since I was a little girl, I had been aware that the couple who raised me, the Browns, were friends of my family. They adopted me after my parents passed away when I was just a baby. I was told they had an accident, and it cost them their lives.
This kind of gives me a series of unfortunate event vibes. I don't know if you've seen that. Epic. You know, where they like murder the kid. I won't ruin it.
But I was never told what kind of accident it was. So I just grew up with the Brown family, who already had 3 children of their own, and I was happy. One day, my friends decided to go on a trip to the beach. I was super excited about it because Mr. and Mrs. Brown hated going to the beach. So at the age of 13, that would be my first proper beach experience. I was sure Mr. and Mrs. Brown wouldn't mind it.
That's actually crazy to me that some Americans, I tweeted the other day, feel free to go follow me, but honestly follow me more on Instagram because that's where I post the actual interesting stuff. Anyway, it's interesting to me that some Americans are just born like freaking in the middle, like Kansas, Nebraska. What even is that? And they've never seen the sea. Isn't that insane? Most of you watching this are American, according to YouTube, so howdy.
But I was very wrong. I begged them, yet they wouldn't budge. I couldn't understand why they were this adamant, so I continued nudging. I mean, this is what all teenagers do, no? But what happened then changed my life forever. While I was yelling at Mrs. Brown and asking for an explanation, she said out loud, "We are afraid that you will face your parents' fate."
Why did she look like that? That's horrifying. Oh my god. Anyway, what parent's fate? Tell me.
And her face turned red. I was so confused and asked for the whole story while I was crying. That's when Mr. Brown asked me to calm down and started telling me the whole story. He said that my parents went on fishing trips regularly, and on the day of the accident, they'd seen on the news that a storm might hit the area, so they decided to cancel the trip. However, their friends who were supposed to go with them convinced them that there was no need to worry that much because they'd stay close to land. My parents agreed and left me at our friend's family house with their older children, and the 2 couples went on their trip. However, the trip didn't go to plan. It wasn't a pleasant adventure at all. They lost control of the fishing ship, and it was dragged way out into the ocean by the strong current. Each couple got on one of the rescue boats that were attached to the boat. But unfortunately, one of them was broken, and it was foggy and stormy, so when they started asking for help, their friends on the other boat couldn't reach them or help them in any way. And just like that, the bodies of my parents were found there the next day.
They found your parents' bodies the next day in the whole entire ocean.
Cause of their death was stated as drowning. As Mr. Brown told me what had happened, I started to cry. I thought about how my parents must have been feeling while they were stuck out there, waiting for help. Help that never came. And then I couldn't stop crying. They must have been so terrified. I then yelled at Mr. Brown and asked, "Who was with my parents on that boat? Who were these people?" Mr. Brown looked at me and then answered in a broken voice. It was us. I froze. I couldn't grasp any of that.
Whoa.
I ran to my room and didn't leave it for days. I didn't want to see or hear anyone. All I wanted was to be by myself and think of my poor parents. Almost half a year has passed since I discovered the truth. Mr. and Mrs. Brown told me over and over again that they tried to save my parents, but couldn't, and that it was their guilt that had kept them from telling me the truth. Over time, my relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Brown has gotten better, but I am still unable to forgive them fully.
That was a short roller coaster. Anyway, I didn't cry. Well, actually I did. I shed some tears, but not because I was sad, but because I keep yawning, because this light is like, it's way too much, but I can't turn it off. It makes me all slow. I found out why my mother keeps losing her underwear. Do I want to know? Really?
I am Monica. A few
Hi,
days ago,
Monica.
I discovered something shocking in my friend's room. Okay, so I had a friend named John in my piano class who I thought was gay. I enjoyed hanging out with him.
Okay, then.
One time, Mom came to pick me up from my piano class. John started asking weird questions about her, like, how old is your mother? Does your father live with you? What does she do for a living? I answered him, but I was truly confused.
I don't know how you got John must be gay confused with John has a crush on my mother. They're two very different things.
John suggested visiting me at home. I thought it might be a good idea. I mean, he was just a friend, right? So I invited him to dinner. There was something in the air that didn't feel right. John and Mom were so engaged in their conversation that it felt like I was nothing but another piece of furniture in the room.
See, that's creepy. Like, if your kid invites someone over and the kid is, like, more interested in the parent, that actually, honestly, that was me as a kid. Not, like, in a creepy way. I just kind of liked talking to adults a lot as a child. I don't know what my deal is with that. I still do. All my friends now are so much older than me. And I guess I don't have an explanation, actually. I don't.
When the evening was finally over, I thanked God for that. But the story was far from over. John started to regularly visit me at home with and without occasion, and he would engage in exceptionally long conversations with Mom every single time. It was really frustrating. From Mom's side, she thought that John was a little weird, but also that he was a polite kid. The next time he wanted
Just
to
a
visit
little
me,
weird.
I suggested visiting his house instead. He looked uneasy at my suggestion, but he agreed. In his room, I noticed something odd. The walls were covered in posters of old ladies in short skirts.
Okay, so he has a fetish for old women. Each to their own, I guess. How much do you want to bet that John's been the one that's stealing her mother's underwear? I don't know. It's not obvious at all. Also, I'm not sure how this is. I try not to cry, but I'm very intrigued to see how this is going to get emotional.
Outside for a minute to bring us something to eat, and my curiosity pressed me to look into his closet to explore what might be in a gay guy's room. But what I found...
Wait. So you've gone into his bedroom, there's pictures of old ladies in short skirts on the walls, and you still think he's gay? Where is she getting this from?
Nothing short of astonishing. His closet was full of women's panties, and not any panties. They were my mother's. I had absolutely no doubt about it. They were hers.
Okay, so many questions. Number one, why do you know what panties your mother wears? That's the only question, actually.
When he returned to the room, I told him I had an urgent matter back home. I apologized and left his place with 1,000 questions in my mind.
No one talks like that, right? Like, you're hanging out with your friends and like, guys, I've got an urgent matter back home. GTG, I apologize. And then you just up and leave and take your mother's underwear with you.
It couldn't be that my mother left those panties at his place. Mom was madly in love with my dad, and she would never cheat on him. Especially not with a boy who was almost the same age as her own daughter. And like I said, she thought he was weird. I rushed back home and went straight to my mother, asking her if she'd noticed anything missing lately. And guess what? She told me that she didn't know where her panties were vanishing to. What was going on? Did this mean John liked my mom? It made perfect sense. If John wasn't gay nor attracted to girls my age, it was more than likely that he was into older women, like my mother. That also explained the posters on the walls of his room. Dare he think about my mom in that way? She was my mother, and she was a married woman. He'd used me to get to her. I couldn't control myself, so I went to his house. When he opened the door, his whole family was there, gathered at the table. I didn't care. The only thing I cared about at the time was yelling in his face for what he'd done. I pointed my finger at him and shouted about everything I knew.
I feel like you could probably, like, get arrested for that. I don't know. I feel like that's some kind of, like, I'm not a lawyer.
I know that you are obsessed with my mother and that you took every chance to get into my house to be close to her. Before I knew it, John was lying on the ground motionless. I'd barely finished my last sentence.
Is he playing dead?
His mom started screaming at the top of her lungs. His dad called an ambulance, which carried him to the hospital. I later learned that John had a breathing condition, and that when I faced him with the truth that he'd carefully hidden from everybody, especially his parents, he couldn't stand it and passed out. I don't know what to feel. I wish him a speedy recovery, but I don't regret what I did.
I think that is very odd. I'm not sure how that was a try not to cry. It actually was more of like a try not to cringe. I didn't cry. Anyway, guys, let me know if you cried. And if you did, you're okay. Don't unsubscribe. Bye.